Hi, this is Scott at Chief Architect. Today's video, 3D Software Tips for Selling the Job, is a remodeling scenario. We're going to begin with a house that was built in the 60s. We're going to extend the entryway, look at a curved roof option, then using the exact same footprint of that house, change the wall style and the roof style to give it a dramatically different look, more of a Mediterranean style. Then we'll move up and add a second story. The remodeling scenario uses this real house that then is remodeled and transitioned into a curved entryway and adding a dormer and a second story. So for my scenario, this will be the beginning house that I'm going to use. Then I'm going to transition it into adding a much larger entryway. Then I'm going to nest and add a gable on the left and then copy and reflect that to the other side for a symmetrical view of the house. The next step will be to just change the wall types from a single lap siding to a multiple wall type. Shingles, stone, and then on the pop-out gables, slightly different wall type. Then the next phase will be to curve the roof and add a dormer. Using this exact same floor plan, I'll show you how to change the wall type and the roof to give it a dramatically different look, but using the exact same floor plan. The final project will be to add a second story to that, to expand it and give it a different look. So let's get started with the first phase of our project. If you are new to Chief Architect and would like to follow along, you can go to chiefarchitect.com and download a free trial version of the software and follow very similar steps that I'm going to do. The first remodel project is to take our entryway and make it dramatically larger and replace the columns. I'm going to replace the doors and windows in the front area, so let's go ahead and go into the program and get started. On the right hand side of my screen is a 3D view, and I'll go ahead and leave that up so you can see as we're making our changes and you can preview it. With the entryway, currently it's 8 feet wide by 2 feet in depth. So I want to expand that quite a bit. So the first step is I'm going to highlight this wall and I'm going to move it out 4 feet. So I'm going to enter in 12 feet and move that over. You'll notice on the right hand side the roof is set to automatically rebuild, so it will automatically rebuild our roof as we enter these dimensions in. So I'm going to select this side of the wall and I'm entering 16 feet. I did it on both sides to make the roof remain centered over the door. Now the next step will be to select this wall here and I'm going to enter in 10 feet on that. Again, you'll notice the roof automatically gets larger as we do that. Now if we come back over here in our 3D view, let's pull this around and I'm going to delete our 2 columns. And I might also bring up an elevation view so we can add our doors and windows in here. Before I do that, however, let's pull our stairs out that we had. We'll repurpose those and we'll just drag those out so that they now match the new edge. So let's just go ahead and snap that to each corner. I'll turn off my temporary dimensions over here on the right so that it doesn't clutter up our screen. So we'll snap that off to each side. Okay, let me go in and use our elevation camera. I'm just going to click the elevation camera, point in the direction that I want, and bring up our elevation. And I'm going to use that. We'll just replace that on our 3D view on this side for the time being. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to select the door and I want to double the width of it. Currently it's a 36-inch door. And you'll notice actually there's a lot of settings that you can make changes on objects in Chief Architect. As we scroll through the panels over here, casing, jamb, framing. So to double the size of that, let's go ahead and set it to be 6 feet or 72 inches. And now you can see the preview of that bag. To add the remainder windows, let's just maximize our elevation view by double-clicking on that window. We'll just zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to use the window tool. I'm just going to come over here roughly and place our window. We'll pull it over here just a little bit. So I want to have that made up exactly. And I'm going to make the changes to that window. Let's go ahead and set the dimensions of it. So we'll set the height to be 80 inches. It'll match our door. And then floor to bottom, we'll have that sit right on the bottom. And in the Lights tab, let's go ahead and add a Craftsman grid line in here. And I'll just set that to be 3. You can get a preview of it. And we'll select OK. So I like the way that window looks. Let's go ahead and use the Copy tool in the lower left. Copy, reflect around the door, and place that window. Place one more window for above these. Let's go ahead and just place that right above the other window. And I'm just going to use the center command to make sure that I have that exact. And if I open that window up, let's go into the lights for that window. And I'm just going to change that to have 2 across. Select OK. Again, I'm going to use the same tool we did earlier, the Copy and Reflect tool, and again around the front door. Now the final window we're going to add, we'll just add that right over the front of the door. And I'm going to go ahead and change the width of that. Match our door at 72 inches. And then for the lights, we'll just add 4 across in there. See the preview of it? And now you can see the preview of our glass and entryway. If you want that to frame correctly, you can group select these items and then you can block them together. There's a block command down here. So you can simply block that. It's like a mulling of a unit. And that way when you frame the walls, you can see exactly the way it looks. Now the next step is to place a new column in here. And I'm going to browse out to the library and grab a column. If I open up the library, I've already saved a column and created exactly what I want. So I've kind of skipped through that step. I'm going to place that column in my plan view. So let's just kind of zoom out here. Grab that column and I'm just going to roughly click and place approximately where I want it. And I'm going to hold the Control key down to give me a little more flexibility and position that approximately where I want it. Let's go back into the elevation view so we can adjust it accordingly. And now all I have to do is select that and move it into place. So I'm just going to slide it over here just a little bit. I'm going to actually unblock that column because it consists of a few objects. One is just a tapered column, which if you search the library for tapered column, you'll find that. And then I use polyline solids for the cap on the column, and then the base on the column I also used a polyline solid. And if you search our other training videos, you can kind of see how those work. They can be used for a multitude of things like tub platforms and columns. I like the position of that. I'm actually going to unblock that column so that I get all 3 parts of it. That'll allow me to copy it symmetrically. Now if I select the Copy button in the lower left hand corner, press Copy, reflect around the front door, then it will place that exactly where I want it. Now if I zoom out, I'm going to press F6 on the keyboard. You can see the way the new entry is. And if I go back into my 3D overview, you can see how we've expanded that entry and how we've transitioned the look. So I've gone from a very basic house of having a simple entry and added a much more dramatic entry by increasing the size of the roof, the width of the door, and adding in those windows. Now the next step will be to take the pop-out gable on the left here, add a nested pop-out in there with a shed roof. Then I'm going to take those 2 components and symmetrically copy that to the other side of the house. So let's take a look at those steps.